The moment her fingers brushed my sleeve, something in my chest tightened like a door slamming shut in a storm, and I knew before she even spoke that whatever came next would change everything I thought I understood about my life, my job, and her. Have you ever stood so close to a truth that it almost burned your skin, yet you didn't dare move an inch closer? What would you do if the person who signed your paycheck suddenly became the person who could break your heart? I was standing in that glass-walled office on the 32nd floor in Chicago. The skyline stretched behind us like a cold painting, distant and indifferent. My name is Ryan, and for 3 years I had worked under Victoria Hayes, a woman known for her precision, her discipline, and the kind of silence that made entire rooms hold their breath. She was respected, feared, and completely unreachable. At least, that's what I believed. That morning had already been wrong. The email summoning me to her office had no subject line, just a time. No explanation. No hint. I had spent the elevator ride convincing myself it was about budget cuts, or maybe a mistake I didn't even know I made. My palms were damp when I stepped in. But when I saw her, something felt off. Victoria wasn't behind her desk like always. She was standing near the window, her back turned, her posture rigid but fragile in a way I couldn't explain. The room felt quieter than usual, like the air itself was waiting. I said her name once, softly. She didn't answer. When she turned around, her eyes weren't the same ones I had known for years. They were tired. Not just physically tired, but the kind of tired that comes from carrying something heavy for too long. Before I could say anything else, she stepped closer, and then it happened. She looked at me and whispered, "You were never just my employee." And I froze. Not because I didn't hear her, but because I understood her too clearly, and that scared me more than confusion ever could. I tried to laugh it off in my head, to turn it into something professional, something safe. Maybe she meant I was dependable, or loyal, or something harmless. But the way she said it didn't feel harmless. It felt like a confession that had been locked away for years. My mind started racing back through every moment we'd ever shared. The late nights we stayed to finish reports. The way she always chose me for projects that required trust. The rare moments when she almost smiled, but stopped herself. Had I missed something all along? Or worse, had I chosen not to see it? I wasn't blind. I had noticed the way she sometimes lingered after meetings, as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. I had noticed how she remembered small details about me: my mother's surgery, my struggles paying off student loans, even the fact that I skipped lunch when I was stressed. But I told myself that's what good leaders do. They care. But this was different. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. I wanted to speak, to ask what she meant, but my throat felt tight, like the words would come out wrong and ruin everything. Victoria took a slow breath, as if she was standing at the edge of something dangerous. She told me she never planned for this, never allowed herself to even think it was possible. She had built her entire life around control, around keeping lines clear and boundaries unbroken. And yet, somewhere between quarterly reports and endless meetings, those lines blurred. She said I had become the one person she trusted in a world where trust felt expensive. The one person who didn't see her as a title or a reputation. The one person who made her feel human again. Hearing that didn't make me feel proud. It made me feel conflicted. Because the truth is, I had built my life around survival. After my father passed away, I became the one holding everything together: my family, my finances, my future. This job wasn't just a job. It was stability. It was safety. It was everything I couldn't afford to lose. And now, in one quiet moment, it felt like all of that was at risk. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time I didn't see my boss. I saw a woman who had spent years hiding behind strength, who had convinced herself that vulnerability was weakness. And yet, here she was, risking everything to tell me something she could have buried forever. But what was I supposed to do with that? My heart wasn't untouched. That was the part I hated admitting. Somewhere along the way, I had started to admire her, not just for her intelligence or her leadership, but for the way she carried herself despite the pressure. I had felt it in small, quiet moments, but I buried it. Because crossing that line didn't just mean risking my job. It meant risking the only stability I had left. So I stood there, caught between what I felt and what I feared. Victoria didn't move closer again. She didn't try to convince me or ask for anything. She simply stood there, as if she had already accepted whatever outcome was coming. And that made it harder. Because sometimes, the hardest choices aren't about right or wrong. They're about what you're willing to lose. Days passed after that conversation, and nothing was the same. We went back to work, but the silence between us was louder than any words. Meetings became shorter. Eye contact became rare. It was like we were both pretending that moment never happened, but the truth lingered in every corner of that office. I started questioning everything. Was I protecting my future, or was I running from something real? Was I choosing safety over something that might never come again? What would you choose? One evening, as I packed my things to leave, I saw her through the glass wall, standing alone again, just like that day. For a moment, I almost walked away. It would have been easier. Safer. But something inside me refused. I stepped back into her office, my heart pounding in a way I couldn't control. She looked up, surprised, but didn't say anything. And for once, I didn't overthink it. I told her that I didn't have all the answers. That I was scared. That I had spent my whole life trying to hold everything together, and the idea of risking it terrified me. But I also told her that what she said mattered. That she mattered. It wasn't a perfect moment. There was no dramatic resolution, no instant clarity. Just two people standing in the middle of uncertainty, choosing to be honest despite the consequences. And maybe that's what made it real. Because life doesn't always give you clear paths. Sometimes, it just gives you moments and asks you what you're willing to do with them. Before you leave, I want to ask you something from the heart. If you were in Ryan's place, would you choose love, or would you choose safety? Share your thoughts in the comments. I truly want to hear your story. And if this story touched something deep inside you, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, but only if it truly meant something to your heart.